My sister dumped her newborn on my porch, saying she'd be back after one night to clear her head, then disappeared for 18 years. When she showed up to sue me for custody, I gave the judge one sealed envelope and watched her world shatter. I was in my daughter Alara's room, watching her meticulously fold clothes into her suitcase, the last pieces of her childhood packed away. At 18, she had this sharp, almost dangerous intelligence, the kind that made me proud and terrified at the same time. She didn't notice me at first, debating the blue jacket versus the gray one. "Dad, stop staring," she said without looking up, a faint smirk on her lips. "I'm proud. Can't a father be proud?" I replied, leaning against the doorframe. Alara shot me a quick glance, eyes dark, sharp. "MIT doesn't accept just anyone. Neither does your household," she said. And she wasn't wrong. I'd raised her alone or mostly alone. Her mother, Marin, had abandoned us before Alara could even walk. She'd handed her off at 3 weeks old, like a parcel, and vanished from our lives. No phone calls, no apologies. Just a hollow absence that shaped every night, every milestone, every heartbreak. And now, after 18 years of quiet vigilance, I'd secured what Marin could never provide. A $2.3 million trust fund from Alara's biological father's estate. Enough to put her through MIT, med school, whatever she wanted. I was about to tell her, to celebrate that small victory, when my phone buzzed. One email, subject line reading, "Legal notice. Astor family matter." My blood ran cold. I opened it, skimming the words that blurred into fury. Marin Astor versus Rowan Clark. Superior Court. Petition for custody. Marin. After nearly 2 decades of absence, she was back. But this wasn't about Alara. This was about the money. I sank onto the top step of the stairs, my head spinning. Louisa, my partner for the last decade, found me there, her hand settling on mine. "Alara's asking if you're okay," she said softly. I shook my head. "Not for her," I said, my voice low. "For me. For the trust. For the fact that she's planning this, and she's timing it perfectly." Louisa's eyes narrowed. 3 days after the trust finalized? I didn't answer. I just stared at the ceiling, remembering that cold night 18 years ago when Marin had abandoned her, leaving me to raise a stranger I'd never met. And now she wanted in, claiming motherhood, wanting access to Alara's inheritance, and I could see it in my mind. The smug satisfaction of a predator thinking she'd finally cornered her prey. I clenched my fists. She wasn't getting her claws into my daughter. Not this time. And then, as if mocking me, I saw it. A friend request on Alara's social media. No photos, no posts, just a ghost account, active for 4 months. Following every story, every post, silently marking her territory before the hunt even began. Marin Astor had been watching, planning, waiting, and I realized, with a sinking, twisting gut, that the woman who had abandoned my daughter had no intention of returning as a mother. She had returned as a storm. I slid down the stairs to the kitchen, heart hammering. "We're going to make her pay," I whispered to Louisa. She nodded, calm but knowing. "How far are you willing to go?" I stared at the door, my mind already racing through years of evidence, lies, and manipulations. "As far as it takes," I said. The doorbell rang. Pizza. But I didn't move, because Marin was already inside the house. I can still see that night clearly, even after 18 years. The smell of rain on the sidewalk, the soft click of heels echoing down the hallway, and then Marin standing at my door, 8 months pregnant, wild-eyed and trembling. I can't do this," she whispered, her hands shaking. I wanted to grab her, to force her to stay, but I knew the truth. She wasn't capable of motherhood. Not then, not ever. I'd been 27, struggling myself, barely keeping my life together after losing both my parents in that car accident. Marin's world was chaos incarnate, unstable, impulsive, reckless. She'd thought that love or luck would somehow carry her through. That night, I convinced her to stay in the apartment nearby, helped with groceries, doctor visits, everything I could. I believed a little structure, a little guidance might anchor her. But it didn't. When Alara was born, Marin held her for 4 minutes, just long enough to plant the seed of her absence. Then she left, vanished into the night. 3 weeks later, at 2 a.m., the baby carrier hit my doormat with a soft thud. No note, no instructions, just my daughter, sleeping, oblivious, and a soundless exit that still haunts me. I filed a police report, of course. They found Marin 3 states away, living with some man she'd met online, already denying she had a child. The officer shrugged. Without immediate danger, there's nothing we can do. Get a lawyer. Protect yourself. And that's exactly what I did. Marin signed the custody papers voluntarily. Full legal custody to me, no strings, no hesitation. She smiled while signing, already imagining her next escape. She had no intention of ever coming back. None of us, not me, not my daughter, mattered to her. And yet, here she was, almost 2 decades later, polished, composed, staring at the world like a queen returning to claim what she'd never cared for. Only this time, she wasn't claiming my daughter. She was claiming the $2.3 million trust that had been painstakingly secured for Alara, every penny guaranteed by the father she never met, and by my unbroken vigilance. Louisa tried to understand, but even she couldn't imagine it. How can a mother vanish for 18 years and suddenly return with a plan so cold, so precise? It made my blood run ice. And now she had a husband, Irving Astor, a man she'd trapped with lies and appearances, a man who had no idea he was being used as part of her scheme. The irony stung. Marin's carefully constructed life of wealth and influence was fragile. One misstep, one revelation, and it would crumble. And that's exactly why she was reaching for Alara. Not love, not redemption, but a lifeline for herself, a calculated attempt to siphon the future she'd abandoned. I sat there, watching Alara in her room, folding the last of her sweaters, completely unaware of the storm gathering just outside our door. I had spent 18 years protecting her from the shadow of a mother who didn't care, and now I had to prepare for a battle that would make those years look like child's play. I had everything I needed, every document, every email, every witness to Marin's decades of abandonment and betrayal. But one thing I had yet to uncover fully, her precise plan, how she intended to twist the truth, and how far she was willing to go to get her hands on what wasn't hers. I clenched my fists. My daughter's future, her life, her trust, everything she deserved, was on the line. And Marin, the woman who had never once deserved a second chance, was about to learn the hard way that you can't waltz back into a life you abandoned and expect no consequences. Because this time, she was stepping into my world. And I had been waiting. The next week was a storm. Every phone call, every message, every quiet glance felt like a countdown to collision. Marin didn't just come back. She infiltrated our lives, subtle, careful, pretending to be the remorseful mother finally seeking connection. But I saw through it. Her charm was a mask, and behind it lurked calculation. Alara noticed, of course. She came home from school pale one afternoon, clutching her phone like it was evidence of a crime. "Dad." She waited outside my school. She said, "She's my mother." I felt ice crawl down my spine. "She wasn't there for you. She abandoned you. She doesn't get that title by showing up," I said firmly, trying not to let my voice betray the panic twisting inside me. Alara shook her head, anger flashing in her eyes. "She knows everything. My MIT acceptance, my science fair. She's been watching me for months." I nodded grimly. "Exactly. For months of silence, for months of observation. And now she's playing the perfect mother act. It's a setup." Louisa poured coffee for both of us, her hands steady, her presence grounding. "We can't underestimate her," she said. "She's not just returning. She's strategizing." And she was. Marin posted that afternoon. Social media became her stage. After 18 years, I finally saw my daughter. I made mistakes, but I want to be part of her life. Hashtag never too late, hashtag second chances. Within hours, it went viral. News outlets picked it up. Comments flooded in. "Give her a chance. Family reunification is everything. She deserves to know her mother." I closed my laptop, jaw tight. She's building public opinion, painting herself as the victim. She's trying to sway everyone before she even steps into court. That's how she plays. She manipulates the narrative before the facts exist. I realized something worse. She was trying to manipulate Alara. By approaching her directly, Marin could claim there was a mother-daughter bond. By presenting herself as the one who cared, she could try to secure legal standing to touch the trust fund. Every move was calculated. Every smile, every tear, every heartfelt post on Facebook designed to tighten her grip on what she had never earned. I had my own allies. Harris Reed, my attorney, called an emergency meeting. She's smart, Rowan. She knows the law, she knows the optics, and she's using both to her advantage. You need something that destroys her credibility completely publicly. Otherwise, you're fighting her in court and in the court of public opinion. I opened the envelope I had been compiling for 18 years. Every abandoned birthday, every ignored milestone, every letter, every email. All of it meticulously documented. It wasn't just evidence. It was the story of Marin Astor's selfishness, her pattern of betrayal, her indifference to the child she had abandoned. But there was one piece missing, the piece that would make her unravel completely, the piece that would expose the truth behind her polished, reformed image. That secret was the key to the first major twist, the reveal that would make the courtroom gasps feel like thunder. And I knew exactly where to get it, because Marin didn't just abandon my daughter once. She had a habit of leaving chaos in her wake, and someone she thought she had silenced was about to speak. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and tension. Cameras clicked relentlessly, recording every gesture, every sigh. Marin Astor sat there, the picture of composure, her husband Irving by her side, smug in his ignorance, convinced she was finally redeeming herself. But I knew better. The first twist came not from my attorney, not from a witness, but from the email I had discovered 3 days earlier. A single message, simple in format but devastating in content. It was from Marin to Irving, sent 2 weeks before she filed the custody petition. I watched as Harris Reed slid it across the table to Stuart Way, her lawyer. The color drained from his face as he read. I didn't flinch. Marin's mask, so carefully crafted for months, faltered for the first time. The email was clear. I found out about Alara's trust fund. $2.3 million. If I file for custody now, I can control it until she turns 21. The court will think I'm reconnecting. This is our way out of the dead hole, Irving. Trust me. Every heartbeat in the courtroom felt louder than the last. Irving's jaw tightened, his eyes darting between his wife and the table. He realized, just a fraction too late, that he had been deceived, used as a prop in her plan to seize money that belonged to the child he had never met. Marin's eyes widened as she realized the email was being read aloud. The room held its breath. Stuart Way stammered, This isn't admissible." I interrupted softly, deadly calm. "It is admissible. And it proves exactly what I've been saying. You came back for the money, not for her. You plotted every step, manipulating social media, approaching my daughter, timing your petition perfectly. This was never about love. It was about access to $2.3 million. The judge, Benjamin Hale, leaned forward, eyes cold, piercing. Marin's tears were gone. Her composure shattered. Irving's face was pale, rage and betrayal etched across it. For the first time, the public narrative, the one Marin had spent hours crafting online, collapsed in an instant. Then Harris Reed called the witnesses. Former landlords, employers, neighbors, each confirmed the same pattern. Marin had left debts unpaid, jobs abandoned, promises broken. Every instance painted her as someone incapable of responsibility, incapable of love. And finally, the police report from the night she abandoned Alara. Her voluntary signing of the custody documents years ago, with a smile. Marin's veneer was gone. Her carefully orchestrated redemption narrative evaporated in the air like smoke. And I realized something I hadn't expected. The second twist was hiding in plain sight. Marin hadn't just come back for the money. She had a hidden agenda that would make this far worse than a custody battle. Her desperation wasn't only financial. She had no plan to repair the relationship with Alara. She had come to manipulate the world into believing she did, while preparing a way to trap us, to destroy us, and possibly even use Alara as leverage in her crumbling marriage. For the first time, the court, the gallery, and even my daughter could see her for what she truly was. A predator in human form, using every tool at her disposal to secure her selfish ends. And I knew one thing for certain. The envelope, all those 18 years of evidence, was only the beginning. Marin was about to learn that the predator had walked straight into a trap she didn't even know existed. The first strike had landed. But the war was far from over. I left the courtroom that day with a weight in my chest, but also a fire. Marin had exposed herself, but I needed more than a single email to obliterate her credibility completely. This wasn't just a legal battle anymore, it was personal. Every step she had taken to manipulate my daughter, every lie she had spun online, every stolen opportunity she had abandoned. It had to be leveraged, meticulously, like a scalpel cutting through a lie. I sat down with Harris Reed and Louisa that evening. The envelope, thick and threatening, lay open on the table. "She's smart, calculating, but predictable," I said, flipping through the meticulously organized files. "She underestimates how much I've watched, documented, and preserved. Every misstep, every false act, every attempt to manipulate Alara. It's all here." Harris nodded. "We'll need witnesses, proof, everything. Social media posts, employment records, landlords, neighbors. The more angles, the harder it will be for her to spin her story." Louisa leaned forward. "And the psychological angle. Alara can testify. She knows her own heart, her own story. That will crush Marin's narrative in court." I smiled, cold and precise. "Exactly. And there's one more piece, a final thread. We need to pull her into it herself." We devised a plan to set a meeting under the guise of settlement negotiations. Marin would come thinking she had leverage, thinking she could charm her way into partial control of the trust fund. We'd let her talk, let her reveal her motives on the record with no escape. Meanwhile, Clayton Pennington, my old roommate and now private investigator extraordinaire, dove into her background. Every abandoned lease, every fired job, every financial misstep, he documented it. Every single detail was another nail in her coffin. And then we discovered the kicker. The burner social media account she had used to stalk Alara for months. It traced straight back to her husband's home network. Marin had been watching my daughter like a hawk, timing her approach to the exact moment the trust fund became active. I leaned back in my chair, absorbing it all. She's not coming back for forgiveness. She's coming back to play the part of the mother while trying to control Alara's money. She's setting herself up for everything she's ever wanted. And she has no idea that the trap is already set. Harris rubbed his chin. "It's brilliant, but we need to make sure Irving sees it, too. If he realizes he's been used, the marriage falls apart, and he's unwittingly funded part of her plan until now." Louisa added softly, "We'll protect Alara, but we can't underestimate how ruthless she's going to be. She'll use every ounce of charm, every tear, every story to manipulate anyone who'll listen." I opened the envelope again, taking a deep breath. Let her charm, let her lie, let her think she's winning. When the time comes, we'll reveal everything. The stalking, the lies, the abandonment, the emails, the witnesses. We'll show the court who she really is, and Alara will stand with us. This isn't just a defense. It's the moment where she finally pays for 18 years of deceit. I looked out the window at the city lights. The trap was ready. Every piece in place. All that remained was patience, and the perfect moment to strike. Marin was walking straight into a web she couldn't escape. The settlement meeting was set for a Thursday afternoon, in a neutral office, or so Marin thought. She arrived with that polished, rehearsed smile, Irving at her side, Stuart Way in full lawyer mode, confident that she was about to charm her way into partial control of the trust fund. I walked in alone, carrying only a slim leather portfolio. Harris had advised against it, but I knew she'd fall right into the trap. Marin's eyes flicked to me. recognition and arrogance mixing in a flash that vanished too quickly. "Rowan," she said, her voice warm, calculated. "I'm glad we could talk. I want this for Ilara." "Not for you," I said flatly. "For her. And I need you to understand. Everything you've planned, every lie, every move, I know. And it will all come out." She laughed softly, dismissive. "I'm just trying to reconnect. Isn't that what everyone wants?" I laid the first document across the table. It was that email to Irving. Her eyes widened, panic barely suppressed. I watched as her carefully constructed narrative started to unravel. But then the second twist hit. I slid another folder toward the middle of the table. "Do you recognize this?" I asked. "These are your social media logs. Your stalking. Every single profile, every burner account, every story you viewed of Ilara for 4 months. And the IP traces right back to your husband's home." Her face went white, and Irving's expression shifted from confusion to rage. "What is this?" he demanded. "Marin, explain." She tried to lie, flounder, but it was useless. Every word she had said about reconciliation, every tear she had displayed online, it was exposed as manipulation, timed perfectly with the activation of Ilara's trust fund. And then the kicker, something even Stuart Way didn't anticipate. "Oh, and one more thing," I said quietly. "Your social media posts, your attempts to manipulate public opinion? I have witness testimony showing you never once reached out in the 18 years before now. Not a single card, not a single call. And here's the original custody agreement you signed voluntarily, notarized, relinquishing all parental rights." Her hands trembled. The mask slipped entirely. Irving's face contorted with betrayal. "You used me. You lied to me. All this time." Marin opened her mouth, desperate, but no words could bridge the chasm between perception and truth. The courtroom of public opinion, the media storm she had crafted so carefully, evaporated in an instant. This wasn't just a courtroom revelation. It was a personal one. Marin had returned, thinking she could manipulate everyone. Her husband, the legal system, my daughter, the public. Instead, she had walked straight into a trap of her own making. The second twist wasn't just that she was exposed to the court. It was that she had underestimated Irving's reaction, her own obsessive planning, and my 18 years of preparation. She had all the appearances of control, but in reality, she was unraveling, cornered, and powerless. And in that moment, I realized the full scope of the danger she posed had been neutralized. The predator had become the prey. It wasn't just greed that drove Marin back. That would have been simple, almost understandable. No, her reasoning was darker, colder, and far more deliberate than anyone could imagine. Once the courtroom was settled enough to allow questioning, Harris Reed pushed her further, carefully, surgically. Marin asked her, "Why now? After 18 years of silence, absence, and abandonment. Why are you seeking Ilara's trust fund and legal access at this exact moment?" Her mask faltered, and in that split second, I saw the truth she had spent decades hiding. I married Irving for stability," she admitted, voice low, almost ashamed. "His fortune, his influence. It was the life I wanted, the life I deserved. But it's crumbling. His investments are failing, the development's sinking under debt. I can't maintain the life I've built. And the money, the trust fund, it's a lifeline. I had no other options." A hush fell over the courtroom. Irving's face contorted with disbelief. Her calculated veneer had cracked to reveal the raw selfishness beneath. She hadn't returned to repair her relationship with her daughter. She hadn't returned seeking forgiveness, love, or connection. She had returned because she was desperate, cornered, and willing to exploit the only person she had ever abandoned to save herself. She continued, her voice trembling but resolute. "I saw an opportunity. She was 18. The trust was accessible. I could step in, present myself as the mother finally ready to make amends, and secure the funds to save what I've built. That's it. That's the only reason I'm here." Her confession left the courtroom in stunned silence. Social media followers, reporters, everyone who had once cheered for her now stared, disbelieving. This was no redemption story. This was manipulation on a level most people couldn't fathom. Every post, every tear, every calculated approach to Alara, it was all a lie. The horror wasn't just that she had returned for money. It was that she had never truly cared. That she had seen her own daughter as a tool, a means to an end, and nothing more. Every hug, every tear, every display of maternal longing online had been a performance. And the most chilling part? She had planned it all down to the last detail, believing that her charm, her lies, and the passage of time would make the world forgive her. I caught Alara's eye in the gallery. She was silent but fierce, comprehension blazing in her gaze. The woman who had birthed her had nothing to offer but selfishness and cold calculation. And now everyone could see it. Marin had returned not out of love, not out of guilt, not even out of curiosity. She had returned because she had failed at life and saw her daughter as a bank, as leverage, as a way to escape the consequences of her own choices. That realization hardened something in me. I had always prepared for legal battle, for manipulation, for lies. But this revealed the full scope of the darkness I was facing. It wasn't just a custody fight. It was a moral reckoning, a chance to show the world, and my daughter, that selfishness, cruelty, and deceit carry consequences. Marin Astor had no redemption, no motherly instinct, only a hunger for survival at the expense of everyone she had ever wronged. And that truth, cold and undeniable, was about to become her undoing. Courtroom day arrived like a storm. Cameras clicked, reporters whispered, and Marin sat there, pale and tense, her carefully curated armor crumbling. I carried only the envelope, the culmination of 18 years of vigilance, documentation, and strategy. Every misstep, every lie, every abandonment, every manipulation. It was all here, undeniable, unassailable. The first blow was the email to Irving. Read aloud in court, it revealed her financial motives, the precise timing, the manipulation she had planned. Marin's face went white. Irving's jaw tightened in fury. Social media applause turned into shockwaves. The public narrative she'd spent months crafting disintegrated in seconds. Then came the witnesses. Former landlords, supervisors from jobs she'd abandoned, neighbors who had seen her flit in and out of responsibilities. Each testified to a pattern of selfishness, abandonment, and deceit. And the final piece, the custody agreement she had signed voluntarily 18 years ago, smiling, relinquishing all legal rights. The judge's eyes narrowed as he reviewed the evidence. But the ultimate strike was Alara herself. Calm, composed, and fierce, she took the stand. Her voice carried through the courtroom. I am Alara Clark, and Rowan Clark is my father in every way that matters. Marin Astor did not give me to him out of love. She abandoned me because she didn't want me to interfere with her life. She wants my money, not me. I want nothing to do with her. Rowan has been my family, my protector, my father. And I trust him to make sure nothing she does ever harms me again. The gallery fell silent. Marin's tears were useless now. No performance could erase the cold truth laid bare by her own actions and my daughter's testimony. The judge, Benjamin Hale, set down his glasses and spoke with finality. Mrs. Astor, your petition is denied. You have no parental rights. You are permanently barred from contacting Alara Clark in any form. Your actions constitute fraud and deception, and the case is referred to the district attorney for further investigation. Marin collapsed into her chair, the carefully constructed empire of lies and manipulation crumbling. Irving stood in stunned disbelief, realizing the full extent of her deceit. Outside the courthouse, Alara and I walked hand in hand, sunlight washing over us. The threat was gone, the trap sprung, and justice had been served. Not as revenge for me, but as protection for her. She was safe, secure, and free from the woman who had never truly loved her. That night, I shredded the evidence I had carried for nearly 2 decades. Every letter, every email, every witness statement, all gone. I kept only the original custody agreement, Alara's birth certificate, and her declaration to the court. Proof not of manipulation or revenge, but of love, presence, and family. Louisa joined us on the porch, warmth and stability woven into her every gesture. Alara smiled, a brilliant, fearless light, and whispered, "We did it, Dad. We're safe." I pulled her into a hug, feeling the years of fear, vigilance, and preparation dissolve. "Always," I whispered, "you were never alone. You never will be." Marin had returned for money, for leverage, for herself. She had lost everything, but Alara had gained clarity, security, and the knowledge that family isn't defined by birth. It's defined by who shows up, who stays, and who loves without condition. Justice was done, and for the first time in 18 years, I could breathe. The storm had passed. The predator was exposed, and the world saw, finally, the only story that mattered. That love, real, unwavering, protective, wins.